Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Maven podcast, where I help ambitious entrepreneurs and investors find a thriving franchise fit or flip their business into one. And today we're going to talk with a gentleman who did just that, flip their business into a franchise. Christian Touze, the Point and Pub Grill. He's going to tell you all about it and all about himself. Christian, thank you very much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. This is awesome.
Good. So let's start from the beginning, Christian. What inspired you to start your company?
Well, we started the restaurant brand, going on 13 years now, 13 years ago. So, we have our main headquarters in what used to be kind of a small town. We purchased actually the oldest standing building in the downtown strip, and at the time, the downtown, was going through a little bit of a transition, and so we got in there and we did our best to kind of revitalize the community. So we did a ton of remodeling on this old historic building, and we opened up the pub. And, really from day one, it was just such a journey, such a privilege, and the community really, really embraced us in a special way. So, I couldn't say what inspired us to do that, except we just saw a need and we took advantage of the opportunity, right? And, goals always change, but it's really grown into something that's, really fantastic. I think we've won the Small Business Leader of the Year award 3 times for that restaurant concept, so that's really great. But as far as the franchise goes, we started that going on, I think, 3 years now. And really, we just saw a need for a restaurant concept that had, or a franchise concept rather, that had a lot of flexibility, good systems, and in my experience looking at the franchise world now, there's brands that are offering a really great product, and of course, they've seen great growth from that. So you have your Buffalo Wild Wings or your Dutch Bros or your Human Bean, these larger, franchises that have great systems and great support, but of course they're quite expensive too. And the franchisees really pay for that. And so we wanted to create something similar that had great systems and great support, but focused on putting money back in the franchisees' pockets. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't have a successful business model unless they're successful. And so that was the goal.
Great goal. Where are you located at, by the way?
We're actually in Southern Oregon. Yeah, we're in a small town called Central Point, and we're about 45 minutes from California.
Cool. And so you started it 13 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. My partnership group started it 13 years ago, and I actually joined as a little bit of a trainer, I guess you could say, because I was, a little bit younger at that point. So I was employee number 2, and I was
Cool.
brought on board to kind of train the staff, and I thought it was going to be a good opportunity because I wanted to kind of learn more about the industry. I'd been in restaurants all my life, but I wanted to see what it was like to start a new one with the idea that I wanted to start my own in a few years. And then, one thing led to another, and I was eventually brought on as a partner, and then, um, stayed on and eventually worked up into the president position where I'm at now.
And you did the Point Pub and Grill for 10 years before you decided to franchise.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And really, it was kind of that classic story of, do you want to open up more locations on your own, or do you want to create opportunities and grow the brand with partnerships, franchise partnerships? So that was ultimately the route that we took. We kind of reached saturation in our market personally, and so it was either split the group up and send people away to kind of travel and open new markets, or we'll look at franchising, which is ultimately what we chose.
And how many different locations do you have now?
So we just opened our first location, gosh, last year,
Mhm.
and we're working on 2 more in Colorado. And we've got a couple in the pipeline that I'll be able to announce officially soon.
Cool. That is
Yeah.
too cool. Uh, well, good. Are you able to open up in any state, or you just stick with the non-registration states for now?
We're open to most registration states for sure. It just kind of depends on the candidate and, the general opportunity and timeline. Of course, there's some that are quite difficult, but, we're open to the challenge, of course. Being right next to California and being in Oregon too, we've got a lot of regulations that some people don't particularly want to deal with. That's maybe the way to put that. But being here already, we're used to it. So we cut our teeth on a difficult business environment, and we're totally open to embracing that elsewhere.
Well, that's good to hear. Now, tell us about the restaurant itself.
So it's an old world style pub.
Mhm.
And the concept, is similar to Cheers. You're going to be familiar with Cheers, I imagine.
Yeah.
So it's an old world style pub, neighborhood pub. You walk in and they know your name already. They're already pouring your beers. You're walking in. Maybe you've got your name on a stool, right? So very community oriented. We love to support our neighbors, whether it's schools or our fellow new business owners or anything like that. As far as a menu offering, though, it's kind of a upscale casual
Mhm.
with an emphasis on quality. So food is going to be similar to like what your mom would make at home, but better quality, right? And easier to get too, because we make it for you. Yeah.
Awesome. And then you have a variety of different beers to offer.
Yeah. Yeah, we have quite a few beers on tap, typically at least 10. We also do ciders on tap. We have wines as well. We focus on local wines and local beers because we like to build those, again, those local partnerships. And then we do the same thing with our cocktail or liquor offering as well. So we like to partner with local distilleries, or distilleries that are recognizable to the community. So maybe there's one in the city over that people love, and so we'll make sure that we host that there.
That's going to be one of your themes then as you grow into the different cities, is that you're going to be looking around for all the local folks and to bring in on that.
Absolutely, yeah. I believe business is still done by, face-to-face interactions and a handshake, right? So if we can just hold true to that as we grow into these new markets and make sure that we support the communities that are supporting us, then it's a win-win.
That it is. How about your recipes for all the food, different items? You got your own?
Yep, we've got our own recipes. I know that you've got some restaurant experience, so you're gonna love this, but it's all systemized, it's all digitalized. So nowadays you can just access all of your recipes on a mobile app that we have.
Mhm.
And we've got training videos, training games, and then all of the recipes have conversions for quantities too. So if you're doing large batches of mac and cheese versus, just a plate, we can help with that. Got that system.
So, do you cook it up to order? Or do you cook a lot of it up ahead of time?
It's all made to order, of course. Yeah, it's all made fresh to order, but we do catering as well at some of our locations. So we have catering systems available for franchisees, whether it's, off-site or on-site catering, serviced or non-service catering. And so we have a lot of those recipes that can be, scaled up for more of a catering opportunity.
So you go do catering, you go takeout, to go, and all that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, yeah, takeout, delivery, catering, really everything. The idea from a systems standpoint is to be like a Swiss Army knife.
Hmm.
So, not all tools will be used in all markets, right? Because sometimes you might be in an airport, for example, and so you're going to want a system that's more maybe self-service or maybe, less customer interaction from a service standpoint. So we have a lot of tools that allow that, or maybe you are in a downtown area like we are, and you want to offer catering to local businesses, whether it's, delivered by hand or delivered through a partner, as well. So yeah, lots of tools for either catering, self-service kiosks, contactless ordering, all that stuff. It's a Swiss Army knife. You get to choose what you need.
You're cool. So I guess you fared fairly well during the COVID issue then, if you had the takeout and delivery.
Yeah, yeah, we did. It was obviously a learning experience for everybody. I actually completed my MBA during COVID, which was
Cool.
fun, but not fun at the same time. Very busy with that. But yeah, so we did do well with COVID. We were profitable through COVID. Of course, we had to scale down to meet the operations, but Scalability is a really important part of our concept from the franchise offering in that, we want people to be able to scale their operations up or down to meet their business needs.
Gotcha. So what about you? Where'd you come from? Is this the first job you ever had?
No, no. So, I was kind of a serial restaurant kid. My parents had a small restaurant kiosk. I've got family in Europe. They've got a small restaurant as well. It's kind of a farm to table concept. So yeah, I grew up in the restaurant industry. I think I was probably 6 years old, and my dad would dress me up in a chef's outfit, and I would go and, deliver the food to the tables as the little chef. So he definitely took advantage of how cute I was. And so it was
Right on, Dad.
a great time to grow up like that. And, I ended up getting into retirement and assisted living. In our area, we have one of the world's premier or leading retirement facilities. We get, ex-senators, a
Wow.
lot of like high profile folks at this facility. So I worked there as a server for quite a while, ended up getting into corporate training with them, and then went to a local restaurant to learn more like fine dining, I guess you could say.
Right.
And then from there, I got into this gig. So been in restaurants all my life.
In the blood. I love it. So I
Yeah.
take it that's a place to go to retire. So I have to keep that in mind. I'm getting a little bit closer to that time. So that's
Yeah, it's a great place. They've got their own, hospital up there. They've got golf courses, houses. It's pretty amazing. It's a pretty amazing facility. Yeah.
that is cool. So who are you looking for in your potential franchisees? You got them all picked out and decided just exactly what they should look like?
Yes and no. We've got like an ideal profile, right? But ultimately, as you kind of travel and explore different markets, I think that you find that, there are a lot of people that you might have overlooked initially. You learn more about the cultures and the environment and what might succeed there, right? So, for us, we're really looking for somebody that maybe has restaurant experience or business experience, and then somebody that's, motivated, of course. And there has to be some financial preparedness. Obviously, you need to be able to start the business. But, really motivation and attitude is the number one thing that leads to success, I believe. Just having the fortitude and the financial ability to see it through. So kind of an interesting not answer, but hopefully that helps.
Okay, there you go. So how about this? Are you looking for somebody who's going to do it like full time, put everything into it, or are you looking for semi-passive investors as well?
You can do both. Yeah,
Okay.
we can absolutely do both. I think that if you do one versus the other, you have to approach it differently, of course. So, when you're looking for an investment opportunity, I really like to see somebody have the key staff picked out already for the opportunity, or that they're very open to us helping them pick out that key staff. Because, staff is so important, right? And when you're not in the role of seeing the business and operating the business every day, it's so much more important to have good operators. Um, yeah, but go ahead. Sorry.
A good point, because if we look at the movie The Founder, that's the problem that Ray Kroc had when he first started was who was his who was his ideal franchisee.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And, I think that regardless of the way that you do it, staff is just so important.
Start off with your manager. Yeah, manager and staff definitely is important, but you all got to find a great manager out there because people come to me quite often and say they want to do it semi-passive. And I say, you can do a lot of things semi-passive, but you got to find that manager, and it's got to be a good manager on that
Yeah.
because it is your money that they're playing with out there.
I always like to say that business is a full contact sport. So regardless of, your style of business, you need to be able to get in there and take some hits and you know, push forward.
That you do. That's true. So where are you going from here? Do you have a like a set number of franchises you want to place within the next each year? What are your goals on that?
Yeah, I think that, we'd really like to do, 5 a year. It's a little bit lower than I think most people, but with our, model and the type of support that we want to offer, I
Mhm.
think that we would much rather do quality over quantity, of course. So, 5 a year is our goal. At 20, once we reach that 20 mark, I think that we'll probably reevaluate that and see, where we want to go. But I think that's the goal for right now.
That's good. And so for your grand openings, what do you do for your folks for the grand opening?
We do quite a bit actually. So, we help with advertisement, whether it's televised, whether we do news broadcasts, of course, from radio or televised. We partner with our local chamber of commerce, and we work quite closely with them to do the traditional ribbon cutting and all of that. Um, we like to make it as big an event as possible, of course. So I think the last one that we did, we had, gosh, probably 65, 70 people. So quite a big crowd. And we've got a couple of strategies to bring people in for that.
And you mentioned before that you all get involved quite a bit in the community as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really, again, that goal to be the cheers place. But with community involvement, we do donations to our local schools. We do a great event every year for Thanksgiving where we shut down our locations and we source volunteers for labor, of course, but also donations for food. And we open up the restaurant for anybody that wants to come in, and we put on a free Thanksgiving meal. And it's no questions asked. Anybody can come in and they can get food to eat there or to go. And it's all donated, whether it's time or product. So it's a great opportunity for us to give back to the community. And everybody really kind of rallies around us to get that offered in our communities. Last year, we served about 250 people. And it was actually the first year, we've been doing it 8 years in a row now. It was the first year that we had sold out of food, which was great, but also, kind of a bummer because we had to close the doors on the event early. So, yeah.
And for those folks out there who have not necessarily been in the restaurant industry at this point in time, for restaurants that are open 365 days a year, there are a few days within that time period that are the busiest for restaurants in the year. Mother's Day,
Mhm.
Christmas, and Thanksgiving. So for a restaurant to give up a Thanksgiving day that's open 365 days a year is a big thing because that is a lot of sales.
Absolutely, yeah. And we also take advantage of the Mother's Day to offer another promotion. We've done it, gosh, probably 4 times, and we do a Mother's Eat free event. So the moms can come in as long as they bring the family and they get a free meal, whatever they want. So, again, it's about giving back. We really want to support the people that support us.
That's pretty cool. You open on Christmas then?
We don't. No, we actually close early on Christmas Eve, and
Ah,
then we are closed all day Christmas. We close for the Super Bowl as well, which is unique. But uh, for our staff, the Super Bowl is kind of a family holiday. So
oh.
we shut down for the Super Bowl and we host a private party for our staff and the families and some of our regulars and get to enjoy it that way. So yeah, we close down on some of the more popular holidays because it's family time, you know?
It is, and I can tell you as a former restaurant manager trying to find people to work on Christmas Eve and work on Christmas Day, boy, howdy, is that a challenge.
Yeah. If I don't want to do it, I can't expect them to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. I just can't count how many times I was doing so many different things in that restaurant on Christmas Day, from bussing
Yeah.
tables to waiting tables to cooking. It was like that's crazy. So it is. That's a big day for you to close down. And Super Bowl, that's for a pub. That is kind of different. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been successful. I think that a lot of times you kind of have to go against the grain. And that's what we tried to do for those particular events. And again, we give back to the staff for that, and then they give back to us too. They've all got great attitudes. We've got really low turnover. We've got a great team.
Well, that's good. So you haven't had any issues then finding any staff, because that's one of the questions I get from a lot of my people is that, how do I find people? It's hard to find people these days. And it doesn't sound like you have that issue.
No, no. I mean, we started a while ago, so gosh, I think that I've got one server. She's been with us going on like 9 years. I think my newest employee for my front of house has been there a year and a half now. The back of house is generally where people struggle with staffing, but we've still got really low turnover there. I think my newest employee is like 8 months. So we typically have very, very low turnover. And we've got, a couple of tricks to do that, whether it's like employee PTO, sick time as well. We pay competitively. And again, we try and be as family oriented as possible with letting people, stay home for events or holidays and all that stuff.
Yeah, that is rather unusual with restaurants. That most restaurants just want to cash in on every single day they can, while you're looking out for your employees a little bit more than that. So, highly commendable, definitely, or something
Thanks.
like that. Good. What's your staff level look like?
At our largest location, we've got maybe 30 employees total. But again, that space is like 7,200 square feet. It's a huge corporate headquarters.
Wow.
For the franchise model, we typically shoot for locations in that, say, 2,000 to 3,000 square foot range. And you really only need, maybe a dozen employees up to maybe 18 employees. And not all of them are going to be part-time, or I'm sorry, full-time. There's going to be quite a few part-time employees as well, so it's really easily managed.
That is pretty good on that one. So you've got what, one or two chefs, four or five servers, dishwasher, busboy.
Yeah, on the busiest day, we'll typically do between 2 to 3 cooks. We don't use dishwashers at most of our locations. We all pitch in for dishwashing in the back of house, and we're strategic with our dishware to make sure that it's like efficiently washed in large batches. Um, so yeah, 2 to 3 cooks on a busiest day. Sometimes you'll have a dishwasher, but really not often. And then you'll have 2 servers and a bartender. Typically, the manager, depending on the day, can act as a bartender or server as well as backup. And then, you'll have a busser or an expo as well. So pretty minimal, pretty minimal. It's really efficient with a build out and menu and all that.
Ooh. And you don't anticipate any issues with getting a liquor license in any of the places that you go to?
Not that I'd run into. Oregon has the reputation of being one of the most difficult areas. So, we learned how to get it here, and it was great. We love where we're at. It wasn't any different in Texas. Texas was really easy as well. There's a couple other states that we're getting ready to apply to. So yeah, I wouldn't say that it's difficult. Sometimes you have to build those costs into your startup costs, though, because there are states where you have to buy like a OLC or a liquor license token or something like that. So you just roll that into startup costs.
You've got it all figured out, so one less thing for the franchisee to worry about.
Exactly, exactly. And one of my partners has been in the bar industry for, gosh, probably 30 years now.
Mhm.
She started as a flair bartender in Las Vegas and worked her way up the corporate ladder. So she's really hands-on with helping people get their liquor license. That seems to be one of the stressors for new restaurateurs is like how to get this liquor license. And so she is very hands-on to walk you through, sometimes literally walk you through that process.
Way cool. Now, how about sourcing for your food and all that? Do you have one particular location where you're going to source all the different food items?
Yeah, so we've got a master distribution agreement with one of the world's largest food purveyors. So
Mhm.
we make sure that, our ingredients are available anywhere in the country. We focus on utilizing as much as possible local ingredients as well. So
Good.
there's a lot of flexibility in our menu to make sure that we can highlight that and again give it that local pub feel. But as far as, sourcing food, we rely on that master distribution agreement. And the company that we use, we've got a great partnership with them. They've been with us, longer than the 13 years that we've been in this brand. So it's a great partnership.
Okay, I think we got it all. I think we got it all covered. Anything I missed?
Oh, we've got great training. So we've got an online academy. I have not applied to a lot of franchises on my own, so I have not seen what other people are offering as much.
Yeah.
But we've got, about 60 to 80 hours of online classroom for our online training program.
Mhm.
And all of that is proprietary, so we developed all of it on our own. And it ranges from like games, whether it's drag and drop or match, building a virtual burger on a flat top, even. We've got games for it. So quite a bit of online training. We do a lot of hands-on training on site as well. So really anybody, you don't have to have experience to be successful with our model. We're hands-on and we like to teach. So that's a big point for us. And then one thing that definitely sets us apart too is our franchise royalty structure, where we have a de-escalating royalty structure, which basically means the more that your franchise sells in gross annual sales, the less you actually pay in royalties, which is great because it holds true to our goal of being franchisee friendly and making sure that they can put as much money back in their pocket to be successful. Because again, if they're not succeeding, neither am I.
Yeah, that's the truth. That is very true. Well, cool. All right. So where can they find you if they want more information?
They can find us, on all the major ones. We've got a website at lovemypoint.com, and you can check out just the brand or the franchise there. We're on Facebook. You can find us at the Point Pub and Grill on Facebook or by doing Love My Point on Facebook. And then we've got, the Instagrams and the X's and all those social media things as well. So I'm old fashioned. Send me an email. Look us up online on our Facebook or our website.
And if you decide to get involved in the franchise, then Christian, you're going to bring them up there to your location and train them at your location?
We're gonna do both. Yeah, we love to have people to our corporate store. We do
Oh,
our best to insist on it because then you get to meet me face to face and taste the food before you take the plunge.
yeah.
So we love to have people here. And then, of course, we will train you here. You'll do the virtual training online, which is extensive, and that's available for your entire staff too.
Oh,
And then,
good.
which is great. Yeah, we actually cut our training costs by 30% when we launched that. So it's really cool. Um, we will then train you at your location too. So it will be at least 2 weeks of on-site training when you launch. And we come and help you with the grand opening and all your staff training.
So you're going to train them at your location. Then when they do their grand opening, you're going to have a big grand opening thing. And you or one of your staff members is then going to go out and train everybody there as well.
Exactly, yeah. So the system's going to be, they're
Cool.
going to start the online training almost immediately and get that knocked out at their own schedule. And then typically about 90 days before their grand opening, they come out to our location. And we like for them to do about 10 days of on-site training, but depending on their experience level, that can be increased free of charge to the franchisee, or it could be decreased in certain circumstances, right? And then my location, or I'm sorry, my team goes out to their location for the grand opening, and then at least a week after the grand opening to do additional on-site training with their staff.
A
So we
lot of
try
good
to
training.
provide
It is.
good value. Yeah,
Mhm.
sorry to talk over you.
That's quite all right. We'll talk over each other all the time. It's just fun. We'll get it. So one thing that just came to mind, as I forgot to ask, is finding a location. How do you help them find a location?
We've got a great real estate partnership. So we've got a real estate team that we really like, and we approach it from a couple of angles. So a lot of it needs to be data driven. We're really big on data, and we collect quite a bit of demographics information, studies, competitive analysis. We're big on geocaching and getting cell phone data and basically building a digital profile on the likelihood of a particular location being successful, right? And then we back that up with boots on the ground, real firsthand information, whether that's me flying down to their location and spending some time sitting on a corner and counting cars, or doing whatever it takes to get the best profile built for that particular spot. So
Cool.
it really starts by identifying the market and then funneling it down to finding the best single space that we can.
And you do the lease negotiation form as well?
We don't do it for them, but we're very hands-on with negotiating. So typically, I'm included in all the emails, or my team is, and we get to kind of guide the franchisee and the real estate team to make, more efficient negotiations.
Excellent. Okay. I think we might have it all down now. One more time. Where do they find you at?
There's one other thing. We also
Oh,
help with the
yes.
business plan too. So a lot of folks
Oh,
are going to go towards the SBA, for financing. And so we're very hands-on to make sure that they can produce, accurate, realistic projections, right? And whether that's going to be assisting with those projections or helping with the build out, we've got a team that does a full architectural design, equipment lists, furniture lists, all of that fun stuff to assist in building what I would call a pro forma, but most people just call a business plan.
Yeah, yeah, we call it pro formas too on some of those that I do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's good because a lot of people are going to be getting a loan for that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Excellent.
absolutely. Yeah, and if you don't need the SBA, then we've got resources in place for just equipment loans or operating capital. Really, we want to have a full package for people. It seems like a lot of franchisees or franchisors, when they start out, are kind of building systems as they go.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's get locations or franchisees first, and then we'll figure it out later. We did the opposite. We really wanted to have things dialed in to have a really high value package for franchisees to utilize and start their business.
Perfect. I love it, Christian. Everything all
Thanks.
set, and you got it all down to a fine art.
Hopefully, we're always learning. We're always learning.
There you go. There you go. One more time. What's your website?
Lovemypoint.com.
Lovemypoint.com. Folks, go
Yep,
out there and check it out. Look at it. If you're in his area over there in Oregon, be sure to stop by and say hi. Tell him you love the podcast. Comments in here. Send this over to your friends. Great business to get into. And the fact that you don't have to work on holidays or be open on holidays. Even better. You can't go
absolutely.
wrong there. One less thing to worry about. Christian, thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you as well.